discussing the police department. And Chief, you have a page for us by chance?
Page
29?
29, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I can, out of this book, I'll get you a page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start on, as I believe the manager just said, page 29, but, yeah, 29 would be administration.
In expenditures?
Yeah.
In expenditures, yes. Well, hang on.
Hi, Joanne.
Karen.
I mean, I was close. Terrible.
Yes, you want to start on expenditures, it'll be on page 29, you are
Look,
correct.
I remember my.
All right, Chief, floor is yours.
You know, obviously, in conjunction with council, mayor, and certainly the manager,
Hey,
you
folks.
know, we've put together a budget here. Highlights of the budget, we are going to try to increase the staffing by 2 more officers, from 44 to 46. We're currently at 44. That's one of the reasons why, even this month, you're going to be voting on a civil service ordinance to change some of the civil service, or to go forward with the civil service testing. We had to update the ordinance. That's on the agenda for November meeting. And then, of course, the operating expenses have escalated a little bit, but they don't seem to have been dramatically increased, other than, of course, the 2 new salaries. We anticipate, with additional 2 officers being hired, we'll be having a total of at least replacing 3. We have 1 retirement that I'm pretty sure is going to occur. We possibly could have a second retirement as part of that also. You know, our projects for the next year certainly has been the continuing of our vehicle replacement policy, as we continued averaging between 3 and 5 cars a year based on mileage and the need to have those cars replaced, you know, the usage of them. The second part of that certainly is to continue with upgrading radio systems. We've been talking about that now for over 1 year. Well, we're in our 2nd year of talking about that. We need to move forward with that. That's more of a capital. Both of them are capital items. We haven't seen any other needs in the department other than you know, increasing manpower for our staffing on our patrol. Any other questions?
Council, any questions for Chief Cole?
In regards to the upgrading the radio system, are we still waiting on hearing about a grant from the state?
Yes, we are. Councilman Gatos, we're still looking at, we're hoping we can get a grant through Markozik's office. We've still, that's been applied for. Budget's all, you know, changed up here, and certainly with the election year, that's what slowed this up this year. Though, so we are still hoping to get a grant. We do have some asset seizure money that can also be put toward that. So that's the idea, is to have as least impact as we can on the municipality.
Is there anything in the budget that would help us then help you for the radio system? Or
What's our responsibility for it?
Right.
Good question, yeah.
At this point, I've kind of not been able to give you an idea behind that. We've talked about being somewhere in that $200,000 to $300,000 category would be our responsibility. There's some caveats there. Our asset seizures have been increasing. We have some asset seizures that are currently in quote-unquote the queue, as you would want to say, that we're going to be receiving funds. That may be fairly substantial. Again, the federal government controls that entirely, actually. So we're still looking there. And then the most we would be looking at would be somewhere we would think in that 200, 250, 300 max range.
Okay.
Tim, can we consider the fund balance in order to fund some of that project?
No, I would not do that.
Okay.
No, it's too expensive. It's taking too much out of the fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if this would be an appropriate time to discuss this or not, or if I would have to wait for my own comments, but the Monroeville Finance Authority had budgeted to give the municipality $148,000. Well, they are giving us $175,000, which is wonderful. And I was wondering if there was a way to set up a separate fund that would be for public safety only with those additional monies, that we could start funneling money into that account directly to help with these radio upgrades in the future. Would we have to make a motion for something like that? Mr. Little? Mr. Ratcher?
Well, I mean, if you're going to make a motion, it wouldn't be during the budget hearing. You'd have to do it Wednesday, you'd have to do it Wednesday night. But they're giving us $175,000, and I was going to report on that under my report tonight. If you were talking about the balance of that, we can do that, but keep in mind, the $175,000 that's in the budget is used to balance the budget.
But you only have the $148,000 in there to balance the budget from previous.
Yeah, if I
And we're
did,
gonna-
then you have
Yes,
a
and we're going to
balance,
have an
right.
additional $27,000 we weren't counting
You're
on.
talking about the 27,000.
You're talking
Yes,
about
just the
27,000.
$27,000 to go ahead and get
What we're
started.
discussing, where's the money at here? I'm not seeing it.
It's coming from the Monroeville Finance
It's
Authority.
under the revenues under my...
So it's not on this.
No.
No, but I was just wondering, since we were ending up with $27,000 that we weren't anticipating, if we could not maybe start a public safety fund, and then that money could be used for public safety issues, maybe the radio upgrades. It's money we weren't counting on, so I thought maybe we could start a fund that would be good for, beneficial for the whole community.
Tim, does that have to be designated for special spending, or can we use that for general?
No, you can, it's in a general fund. You can use it for anything.
But we could start, I would like to ask if we could have it put on the agenda for Wednesday to vote on, to possibly set up a separate fund specifically for public safety, item only, being this money that we weren't counting on.
So
I'm totally lost.
I'm
I
okay with that,
understand what
but
you're
what
saying.
is
I
the
get it.
what is the total amount needed for these radios?
He said $200,000 to $300,000
Well,
from
from
us.
us would be roughly in that category.
It's not in here anywhere.
It is not in there
No.
anywhere. It's actually a capital expenditure.
And
it is a public safety event. It's not, it would have a ripple effect that would also increase the communications for the Public Works Department, obviously the police department being the number one, and of course the fire department and the infrastructure with all
So
the,
this is going to what, VHF or?
this is going from the high band. Currently, right now, as we sit here today, Monroeville Police Department is the only police department in Allegheny County that's still on a high band frequency. It's between 150 and 170 megahertz.
And we're
All
gonna-
the other departments are on frequencies between 450 and 490.
And we're going to.
We want to go to that level.
You'd be giving those other radios to the road department.
That's correct. The other
Am
radio...
I understanding that the fire departments gave us
The fire department has UHF. They've been on UHF since 1988. They've been in that system. And in 1988, as a side note, all the police departments were on VHF, so that's why we stayed on VHF. But the UHF system is, they've been on it since. They have the capability. There's some frequencies there. We're trying to get licensed on another frequency, which has been part of the issues. But the same problem is that the police department depend more on portable radios than they do on the mobile radios.
So
in the
that would be
vehicles.
UHF.
So, correct. So even if we would just transition over to the fire department channel, which wouldn't be
But I
function
thought
proper.
that they had, my understanding was they had several channels.
They do.
UHF
But those
channels, and they were going
frequencies,
to
they
devote
do,
one to us.
absolutely. But they still need to be built out. They have to have more receive antennas. They have to have more infrastructures. They wouldn't work appropriately for the way law enforcement uses it. So we would have to add more portable coverage. We'd have to add more microwaves to get it to work appropriately, and that's why we need to
That
still
would
have this.
eliminate the dead spots, some of the
Eliminate
dead
the dead
spots.
spots that we have now. And some of this, even on the VHF system with the, and I'll give you some numbers here. On the VHF system that we currently have with the police department, we have 7 receive antennas with a transmit antenna off of Crown Tower, which is the big tower here by Number 5 Fire Company. On the UHF system that the fire department currently has, we only have 3 receive antennas with transmitter off the Crown Tower by Number 5's firehouse. We would have to build more receive antennas and add more transmitters to all the frequencies to make them work. And the reason that's occurring is because in 2010, we were forced to do what they call narrow banding, which took the frequency width that when you transmit out, it transmit in a wider beam made it narrow down to a shorter beam, which took away our coverage. It took away our inside building coverage, and took away our outside the borough, further into the city coverage when we get pursuits and things like that. So this is technology. The federal government forced us to do that, and they're going to narrow band again, even make it more narrow. So the infrastructure needs to be changed and updated. The infrastructure that the fire department has is 1980s technology. The police department has late 1970s technology. We've got to get it into the 21st century, I guess.
So this is a public safety issue, so I don't understand half the things you just said,
I know.
but we've just got to make sure that the money is there so we can do this upgrade and get us into the 21st century here.
Right.
Right,
Absolutely correct.
I mean, that's just- it
I
is-
just wanted
it
to
is.
start building a fund for this
the-
public safety.
Oh, build
I
the
thought
fund,
this might
heck,
be a good way
contract
to
it out,
start
let's get
it.
it started.
Well,
Well, ought to do
We
it.
have to get the grant money, though.
Linda, what you and I talked about, I think a way that you can start funding it better than the balance of $27,000, and you and I discussed this,
Yes.
is, as I mentioned last month when I was talking about the budget, the fund balance in the general fund is doing a little better. Now, that's not to say, as I mentioned also, that if you have a large expense, an unknown expense, then you're going to have to dip into the fund balance, so to speak. But as I've said before, your low point on a cash flow for any municipality in the Commonwealth is March 31st. Now, what I mentioned to Linda, she and I talked about this after the Finance Authority meeting. I think if you could take, for instance, if our fund balance is healthy on March 31st, which is a low point of a cash flow, you can maybe take $100,000 out of there and put it into a separate fund and start funding this for the radios. I projected that the fund balance at the end of this year, the calendar year, the calendar year is going to be better than it was last year. So our fund balance is building a little bit, and this is a capital item, obviously. And whether it's roads, whether it's vehicles, radios, whatever the case might be, you're going to have to start funding and finding a stream to put into the capital improvement fund. This is something we have to do. We don't have any choice. So I think that might be a way of waiting till March and then taking 100, I'm just using a number. It might be 75, it might be 125, whatever. I can bring that to the table at the March meeting. And say, here's where our fund balance was the last 2 years at this time, and this is what it is now. We might have $500,000 more. And maybe you might want to take $100,000 and put it in a separate fund.
What is our fund balance today?
Right now, as we speak, I'll get back to you. I don't know what it is to the penny.
Okay, well, what was it projected at then?
We're projected, I have it at about 4.3.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, that's not cash on hand. The general fund is owed money from, for instance, the liquid fuels fund and things of that nature. So that's an accrued fund balance. Cash on hand's a little bit lower than that.
So how soon are we going to be able to do this upgrade?
It's very important that we wait on the
I'll
grant,
refer to the
correct?
chief on it, defer to the chief on
We'd
that.
like to start it yesterday.
I like the quickness that you want to move. I'm all, we certainly think that a grant is still the way to go, and I'll have a general idea about that early next year, I would hope. So, we can get started. The frequency allocation is one of the issues. We're trying to get a fourth channel. There are extra channels, or I should say other channels that the fire department does have on UHF. That is a stopgap. We could get onto one of those channels, possibly, and then, add the other channel when we get it. UHF channels are becoming very difficult because one of the other issues here that the county has facing it is their 490 band is called a T-band, and that T-band is being taken away by the feds, so they're scrambling for radio channels too. So this is all something that the federal government's put on us over the past really 5 to 6 years. But it is technology that we got to get going here. I hope next year we get it done, but early next year would probably be a late next year. If we got to get some licensing for other transmitters, there's things that we have to do on those channels. We have already, as part of the Public Safety Committee, gone down and spoke with vendors about the technology that's available for us. One of the things we did with these iPhones is why I brought my iPhone, issued to the officers to try to offset. That gives at least cell phone capability as a backup. It's only a backup. It's not the primary. We need to have a good primary radio channel. Certainly, it also gives us the capability of sending data and photographs and other things that we can do now that we have all, the government, meaning the municipality, owns the phone. We have proper software on it for safety, for security, for Criminal History Records Act, all that kind of
So
stuff.
here's.
I don't mean to, I'm sorry.
Please, Steve.
I don't mean to drag us out, but I remember last year that we talked about the VHF.
We've actually
we
talked
added
about it
some
for 2 years. It's
Yes,
actually
we have.
gone back 2
But we added antennas. Did that help any? I know we had an issue down on Lower Pitcairn Road.
It helped the VHF, it did. We didn't add any UHF antennas to the fire department side of things, but it did help the VHF. But it's still not been enough. Again, it's the technology.
I'm sorry, I thought it helped the UHF.
No, it helped the VHF. We added a cover antenna on top of the hill at the water tower on, well, I guess it's really 14th, 13th.
So it didn't help our police force.
No, it did. It did help a little bit. It helped over Pitcairn, helped that area, but we still have the dead spots that we have in the lower area of.
And that couldn't temporarily be addressed by addition of antennas, is what I'm saying. Until we come to next year when we get this grant or whatever.
Well, the issue is that we don't want to put any more money into the system because
Okay.
it's obsolete.
Very good.
We've got to go to the next new system. We've got to, the more money we put it, we're throwing good money after bad.
We have to start looking at this. It's,
Definitely,
you
I
know,
agree with
it's
you.
extremely important for public
I
safety.
would go further than we need to stop looking at it and just start doing it. Take the fund balance, do what we need to
Right.
do, and shift that money over.
Right.
Public safety, we've been talking about this for a couple years now.
Correct.
It has been a
and
couple of years,
the-
absolutely.
These channels are going away. UHF frequencies, we're losing them, and the longer we drag this out, the less chance we are going to have to get this properly. I mean, this is kind of put all your ducks in the basket, and let's get this done.
Well, and that's
We
what I
can't- we
thought we
can't
were
have it.
starting with last year, and we really ended up going
Now,
nowhere.
let me ask this question. If we get the grant, can we use that grant to pay back the fund balance, that the fund balance would support this program?
I don't believe so.
I would think
I would
not.
not think, but I can't answer that
That's
question for you.
that's a question.
When you get a grant, it's specifically
Right,
for that,
Right.
Could we get the project started without all the money? Get it started with money out of the fund balance, and then when the grant comes in, use that to pay for the
What
rest.
if the grant doesn't come through for another year?
Well, what if it doesn't? Then we still need the radio. We need the
Look at it,
frequency.
replace it.
Well, I
It's
agree
kind of
we
my
have to
point.
replace
If the
it.
grant
That's why
goes
I
through
was-
or not, we have to do that.
But do you want to piecemeal it? Do you want,
Right.
or
Or
do
do
you
we
want to
start
get it all
allocating
at
the
one
funds
time?
and-
I don't know.
Right,
can we
well,
start-
I don't
I
know
don't
that
know
either,
that
if that would even help.
Can we start with maybe the bid
Way out
process?
of my
Maybe
depth.
getting a better idea of specifically what we're
Well,
looking at?
We're working with, certainly one of the, in a combination of this whole thing is also the dispatch center and upgrading the dispatch center. There's radio infrastructure that needs to be upgraded there. When I say radio infrastructure, I mean the repeater sites, the transmitter sites, the microwave sites, and stuff that goes along with the dispatch.
Yes, there's a lot that needs to be looked
A lot
at.
that got to be, we've already looked at the
Put all that money in
propagation
the
studies. We've already looked at them and looking at the sites that we have now currently, which
Right.
does help us. But again, we're talking about putting other transmitters up, which means we need to be licensed for those transmitters. So there's a
Well,
time thing
Doug,
there.
if
Can
you-
we start some of this infrastructure? The answer to you is yes. That may be the answer.
Well,
Buying the mobiles and portables are easy, sorry. Ron. I mean, that's the easy part. The problem is getting the infrastructure set that the mobiles and the portables work.
The part that has me nervous right now, that when we had the meeting with the vendor, was that our consoles downstairs are so old, they don't make the parts anymore. And when I say the consoles, I mean the actual transmitters for the police and fire. And we got to get those replaced. We're talking about 100,000.
Yeah, roughly.
And because
all
right
multiple.
now, they're
There's like
operating
5 or
on
6
Windows
eight
XP.
transmitters.
Oh,
Okay? So one of the computers went down, and they went downstairs into the basement and found a computer actually that had XT on it. But the point being is we got to get this replaced.
Right. Kind of to that point, so in the 5-minute conversation we had, we just found out we just got more outdated. If we wait till next year, we're going to have more stuff outdated.
We would.
It's
We've
time
got
to
get
move
it.
on this.
Yeah, we
I don't
have to
think
do it.
that we could go wrong by updating the consoles downstairs now, Doug, right?
I don't
And-
think so.
Where's the counties come into this?
They're in trouble.
They have their issues,
I mean, are
too.
their systems as
Well, the feds are taking all their channels.
antiquated as ours?
Let's try. No, they got
Counties
newer tech.
UHF.
No, that is part of they have newer technology. They have the technology, at least in the 90s. Let's put it that way. They have.
So we're trying to update our Monroeville
That's
911
This is our
center,
system, that's correct, that we have.
Radios and.
Yeah.
with everything to be comparable to the
Well,
county.
that's the untold story here, is that what it does is for a mutual aid type of an incident, it certainly makes it easier for our officers to talk. Instead of having to talk back through the dispatch and going back to the other, they can talk directly to the county people. If we have other departments we have to mutual aid with,
And it
or
eliminates.
they
the
come
dead-
in here.
It eliminates the dead spot.
And that's the big yes. We want to eliminate the dead spots, absolutely. And that's why we're looking at multiple more receivers, different types of transmitters in the different locations and at different wattages. That's the whole system. That's why, when I say infrastructure, I mean that whole back end, that when you key the mic up, it works.
So
And-
I'll help dig the holes,
I
and you
gotta
can use my roof for an antenna, work.
I've got to bring this question. If we didn't have a 911 center, or a Monroeville center, and we were directly through the county, would we have to invest this?
No. The county provides a radio system. The question would be,
No, you have to replace all the mobiles.
we'd have to replace all the mobiles and portables. We would have that's correct. We would have to replace the mobiles and portables. We'd have a $180,000 expense.
But not the transmitters and the
We
antennas?
wouldn't have to do the transmitters, the antennas, or anything like that. That's
They'll be
correct.
using their,
We'd be using their infrastructure.
Frequencies.
That's correct. Well, they would want our channels. They would want our frequencies. They would probably try to build out our channels, because our channels are, our frequencies are
The
like.
long run of it is what you're saying, is it's the same amount of money for us to upgrade ourselves if we get the grant money, as it would
Yeah.
be to just go
It
ahead and
would
go
be-
with the county
and
and
that's why
not
the
give up
grants
our
kind of-
own center and our own
That's
channel.
correct. That's why the grants kind of is very important,
Yes.
actually. It's extremely important. But we're trying to keep us at the low end that we have to support ourselves, meaning the municipality has to come up with the end of it. And we have asset seizure money that's going to offset it too.
One other thing we learned during that meeting is that the CAD system, the computer-aided dispatch system that the county uses, just went belly up. The company bought them and they're shutting down.
Wow.
The county's
So
going to
now they're going to
replace
have
their
to buy a
CAD.
whole new
The
computer.
county will.
The county will, correct. So whether in the future there'll be surcharges to municipalities or not, I don't know. We've always been thinking there may be.
But we won't get those surcharges.
Well, we won't have those surcharges,
No, we
because
won't.
we're still by ourselves, but I can't speak for the county on that,
Try to
honestly.
pull us out
I
of
do
the
know
loop.
that they have to change some of their stuff too.
Like, why don't you make up a list that, with the approximate costs that we can look at?
We are waiting to get some prices back. That was one of the issues at our meeting 2 weeks ago, was that they were going to get back to us with
I
pricing on
kind
what
of
they
tend
think
to
it'll
lean
be.
towards Mr. Duncan and doing it all at once, but if we have to do it a chunk at a time, the radio room is the thing to update first.
I mean, it sounds like council is definitely ambitious to get this thing rolling. I think maybe Mr. Harvey says, maybe we start getting some prices, maybe kind of give us exactly what we're looking into. You can meet with Mr. Little. Mr. Little can present to us, because it's not really in this budget right now.
So we're
some of
talking
our-
about a capital here, absolutely
Exactly.
correct. We're not
So
talking about an operating
maybe we
budget. That's
start
right.
with just kind of figuring out exactly what we're getting into, and we'll move on it from that point.
I do have one other question.
If we could- Good.
Go ahead.
Doug, I'm not sure where this is at, but is it true that the state is passing a law about having to have body cameras?
The Senate actually passed prior to them. It was not acted on by the House of Representatives, because it never came out of
I
committee.
just meant it could be an expense to us if you
Well,
have
it's
to
gonna-
have.
It is. They passed good legislation that the Chiefs of Police Organization and the FOP were both in favor of on the body camera. They limited access to right to know. They had privacy issues for people that were caught on the camera. They had to go to a judge to get stuff. Obviously, it was always available at court for criminal cases. So that was great legislation. I would have liked to have seen it adopted, as being a representative with the Chiefs of Police, because we've put some time into that. But that didn't happen. It's not going to happen this year. Whether it'll happen next year, I do anticipate that body cameras, some type of legislation will happen in 17.
And for our residents, we don't currently have body cameras, correct?
We do not. We
We do have vehicle cameras.
We have in-car camera systems. We've been one of the leaders in that, going back somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 years now.
Yeah, I know.
And we've spent money on that too. A lot of it was asset seizure money, but we've put money into those cameras in the area of $200,000 a crack whenever we replaced them every 5 years. We have roughly 34 police cars, or I take it back, roughly 24 to 26 cars that actually have them. So the body cameras, and then initially, we thought, and this was with 5 or 6 years of body cameras being out on the market across the country, we thought, and the vendors all thought, that the body cameras would replace the in-car cameras, and that is not the case. So now what we're looking at in the future is a combination in-car camera and a body camera that are hooked together, that are all part of the same video storage. This is the technology. So that the camera comes on in a car when it gets triggered by turning on the red lights. It also turns the body camera on. It makes things a little more streamlined, if lack of a better word. So that's going to be the future, and that's the future of all the body camera manufacturers. That's what they're
Like,
doing.
if they pass this legislation, are you going to be forced to buy a body camera?
The legislation doesn't force the local municipalities to do it.
So it'd be up to us.
Would still be up to this council, absolutely.
So,
Some states, may I add, do force. North Carolina is one of them, but when they force them, the states fund it, and they pay for it in its entirety. I don't know if that's going to happen here in Pennsylvania.
trying to back us out of the weeds just a little bit.
Confidence is low there.
Confidence is low there.
Make sure we're all on the same page. Back to the UHF radio thing.
Okay, sure.
Legislation's always going to change. We're always going to be forced to spend money on something else. These things are 50 years outdated. 40, so maybe they were in date for
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay? Again, we just need to get this done. I mean, we need to get all the blind spots, the spots you can't hear. We need to get this fixed. We need to get the UHF, and we need to do it now. We can't wait for it.
I agree, but we
Clary,
also have to get a figure.
Yeah, we do. Everything you said, I'm totally in favor. I've been talking about it for a couple of years now.
I just
So,
wanted to get the door
We've been
open.
trying to
I
put
think
it
it's a
together.
great
That's why I
idea.
brought it up.
It's
I
now,
glad you did.
it's
Yeah.
definitely not the right time. It's definitely not worth putting any more money into the current system. We've got to do something different.
And that's
you're
one
kind of
good
got
thing
all
to
that.
know.
And that's what I really wanted to get to council, and we kind of got it here. And now we
Very
just got to
good. I
figure a way
think
to
we're
fund
on track with
Yeah,
that.
so Tim,
Thank you.
if you could work with the chief and start figuring that out,
it.
and
Be absolutely great.
Thank you,
We'll
Doug. I'm
approach it from
sorry
there.
it was the wrong timing, guys, but
It was a good time.
Nah, it wasn't.
Good job.
So does anyone else have any other questions for the chief regarding his budget?
I had one question you may have answered. This is kind of just a housekeeping question. There was the contract service fees.
Page.
Under what page? I'm sorry.
it's the same one.
29?
29.
It's 000. Are we doing something new?
The accreditation, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. I put that in last year because I was going to try to get it's called accreditation, state accreditation for the department. And departments have tried to do it in-house. We have about 85% of everything we need, maybe even 90% of everything we need with policies. Of course, our equipment's up to date. Our standards are all right there. So that's what that's about, is trying to be in a position that we could contract an outside agency to help us finish that up. My goal has always been to credit the department. Actually, it's been a goal that we've had for many, many years. So that's why I kind of just kept it in there and carried it over. So
There was
hopefully-
nothing used in that this year.
There was a handful. We ended up doing some. We took a couple
We
minor
have
things out of it.
zero at 20,000, and then you're asking for another 20,000 in 17.
Yes. I don't
You
think
didn't
I
do it
spent
last year.
anything out of it. I may have spent, I'd have to look at the expenditures, boss. I'm not sure if we took a couple things out of that, but if they were very minor. There was no large ticket items. But it was entitled for, or put toward wanting to accredit the department, meaning meet the state accreditation standards.
Thank you.
Anything else, council?
Keep up the good work.
Very good. Thanks, chief.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you. Yeah, very good.